Hi, it's Rollo from Agent and Homes, and today we're going to cover fees and terms, but also terms and conditions. Basically, we've had a series of videos about working your network, preparing for valuations, what happens on the valuation, what happens after the valuation. So if we backtrack, whilst you are on the valuation, there came a point after you had looked at your client's property, you sat down in the kitchen, in the living room, you might have had a cup of tea or coffee, and you discussed Agent and Homes, what you would do, you spoke values, but you also brought up fees. Some agents don't like talking about fees. They wait to be instructed before they talk about fees. I personally always believe that it's really important to be transparent, and clients want to know what they're going to pay, either to let their house or to sell their house or their flat. And therefore, by not talking about fees, you're not actually talking about the true picture of your worth and what you're going to be doing, because ultimately, yes, they want a buyer, yes, they want a tenant, but they also want to know what will they pay. And especially, well, in the last 20 years I've been an agent, it's changed drastically from, the days where we used to just charge 2.5% to be a sold agent, 3% to be a multiple agent in sales, and somewhere between 12 and 15% to find a tenant in lettings. We've had the advent of the upfront fees like Purple Brick, who just charge, £500 to find you a buyer, or £50 to find you a tenant. Or platforms like Open Rent, where landlords can actually upload their own properties. So landlords and vendors now have actually choice, which is great for them, because we are in a world of choice and people have to be able to decide what works for them. What do they want? And what we are, above all, is a hybrid model of agency, where we charge a commission fee for our services, and we believe passionately that we offer a better service than the high street and a better service than the upfront fee model. And the reason is because we offer one point of contact throughout the whole transaction. One person. So if you appoint an agent at Agent and Homes, you're dealing with that person from start to finish. That person, you, can advise sales, lettings, property management, short let, relocation, buying advice, overseas properties, all sorts, because you are a true professional. So therefore, don't just think you're going to win your instructions by giving a low fee, or just because the high street has 5 offices in London that their network is bigger. Because at the end of the day, this is a hard one to sell. You just have to face the fact that 95% of buyers and sellers start their search online. Especially with COVID now, people don't walk into estate agents. They see a property on Rightmove, Zoopla, on the market, and they call the agency, and it's what happens after that, which is really important. So when, let's say, you're pitching against Dexter's and your potential client goes, yeah, but they've got 5 offices and 20 negotiators. Great, is that good or bad? I think it's bad because, it's random who is going to answer the phone call to that applicant for your client's property. Would it be the manager? Would it be the number 2? Would it be the junior or even the Saturday person who takes that potential lead for someone who's going to potentially want to buy or let your client's property? And how are they dealt with? Who does a viewing? Is it someone who just rocks up at the property because they happen to be in the office that day to pick up the call, and they've never seen the property? They don't even know there's a cat in the property. They lose a cat. They walk mud all over the property. They can't answer questions such as, is a property in the catchment for a certain school? What's the closest transport? So in fact, having one point of contact, you, the person who's pitching for business, who will be doing the viewings, is a massive, massive, massive plus. This is our differential, because the person you are now talking to, your potential client, you're looking them in the eyes and you're saying, I will be your point of contact. I will be looking after you. I will be doing the viewings. I'll be dealing with the applicants. I'm the one who will negotiate the offer. I'm the one who will check the AST and the tenancy and the referencing. I am on your side. My job is very simple, to get you the best tenant or the best buyer. And sometimes I even say, the best buyer or the best tenant might not be the person who offers the most money. So these are the differentials between you and the high street. So when you talk about fees, for sales, it's much more straightforward. Well, we advise that you work on a percentage basis, not an upfront fee and not a flat fee, because a percentage basis is much more fair because it varies depending on the price you achieve. Now, we also advise you don't go below 1%. So what I mean is, if you sell a house for £1 million, that's a 10 grand fee. 800,000, 8 grand fee is easy. Really, you should be pitching at 1.5 because that difference of 0.5% makes a real difference to what you take home. And remember, you're no longer working on volume. You might have 5 sales a year, 10 sales a year, and therefore your fees are really important to you. But also you want to give your client the service they deserve. So you don't want to take on that many properties because you want to really focus on the stock you have, not just in doing the viewings, but also giving feedback to your client and making sure they really feel you're on their side. And that's the most important, because remember, once you've got an instruction, all the local estate agents will be knocking the door, writing letters and saying that they are better than you, they have more resources than you. And therefore, if you have time to give good feedback and build up that great relationship with your client for either sales or lettings, you are unsackable. And that is one of the most important things when you're a self-employed agent. Also, what you want to do is you want to get your instructions on as a sole agent, not multiple, which means you are the only agent acting for your client. Now, other agents will want multiple because the high street is just basically, it's a gambit, it's luck of the draw. The valuer for, let's say, Marsh and Parsons, Dexter's, Kinley's, Winkworth, he doesn't have his client's best interest at heart, he just has his interest. He knows that if he pushes himself onto an instruction and it's multiple, it's a 50-50 chance that his company will sell it versus you. Because sometimes it is luck of the draw. If a property is listed twice on Rightmove or on Zoopla, that applicant might just click the Foxtons logo instead of the Agent and Homes logo. And therefore, a buyer that you could have dealt with, you have lost them. So that's how the high street work. They just work on percentages, the 50-50 approach. They don't care, they just want to be on it, because if they're on it, they've got a chance of selling it. Now, the market has changed a lot in the last 10 years. When I started, it was a seller's market. They had the power. Now we are in a buyer's market. There are a few buyers out there. So what is the point of having your property listed with multiple agencies? Why would you want your property listed 3 times on Rightmove, 3 times on Zoopla, 3 times on the market, 3 times on prime location? It's not the right signal. Also, people sell for different reasons. So it's very, very, very important that you understand that reason. And having one clear message going out to the marketplace delivered by one professional estate agent is controlled and fact. If an applicant calls, let's say, Agent and Homes up, and the true story why they're selling, because they're getting divorced and it's really horrible and the couple hate each other and they just want to move on, or that the couple are moving to the country, they've found their dream home and they're under maximum pressure to accept an offer, that's very different language going out to the potential buyer. If your message is calm and composed, yes, no, my vendors are in no rush, they're looking for the best offer, we've had plenty of interest, come and view it and then let's talk offers, is very different to if that person then calls up, Aston Row, and they're like, yeah, it's a really bad divorce, they're desperate to sell, go low, don't worry, I'll sort it out for you. That is not good for the vendor. It just means their message is getting diluted and they're no longer in the driving seat. So in a marketplace where there's few buyers, it is pointless going multiple. And if the vendor talks about, the high streets network, your network is as good, because every agent working for Agent & Home is like an office. So therefore, we have 40 offices across the capital. We have access to long res, where we can offer split fees with every single agency out there. And unlike most estate agents, we make sure we advertise on all portal sites. So with us, they get maximum coverage, but also they get you to do the viewings. Now I'm going to talk about lettings now, because lettings fees are very different, and it's not just one fee like for sales. You have different services. You have only find a tenant. You have find a tenant and management. You have find a tenant and rent collection. You have just find a tenant and then rent collection. You have find a tenant and the landlord collects the rent. So again, once you're sitting down with your client, it's really important to have in your folder that you take with you some examples of terms and conditions of both sales and lettings. So if for some reason you're unsure, you can leave something behind for them to study. And in our fees and terms, it explains clearly what the fees are, what the average fees are, and then of course you can negotiate should you want on your fees. But we believe you are better than 5%. You're probably worth 8%. There's no reason you can't match a high street, because we don't believe our agents are instructed because of low fees. They're instructed because they offer a better service. And that is really, really, really important. But it's also really important that you check with Tenaz and the lettings department, what other fees are out there, so you know them on the drop of your tongue. You don't mess things up when you're talking. So for example, if someone says to you, okay, I just want you to find me a tenant, but I also want you to rent collect. What is your fee for rent collection? Don't just say, oh no, it's nothing, because there is a cost to rent collecting. It means that the money comes into the Agent & Home's protected client account. Once an agency collects money, it means we have obligations towards that landlord in terms of taxation, but also sending out monthly statements. So be aware of add-on costs, which have all been sent to you in the recent agent agreement, which you would have received. There's a whole section about extra admin costs and extra lettings cost. If a landlord wants an end-of-year statement for their tax purposes, that's different to what they normally receive. If we're collecting rent, every month they get a statement. Happy days. That's part of the service for their fee. But if they want a HMRC compliant end-of-year statement, they're the cost to it. I think it's about £70. So you need to be able to say to them if they ask those questions. So it's really important to sit down, talk fees, understand fees, and put fees in your terms and conditions, so there is no dispute. Why are you charging an admin charge on top of your find a tenant charge, on top of your management charge? What is your find a tenant charge for? What is your management charge for? What is your rent collection charge for? You need to be able to break these down in an intelligent manner off your tongue without hesitation. And again, your client, the landlord, will appreciate it because you're being frank and honest. You're not just saying, yeah, I'll find you a tenant, don't worry, I'll sort you out on fees. And then they get a bill and they don't understand it, and they're like, wait a minute, you've charged me admin fees, you charged me for inventory, you charged me for picture floor plans, you also have a rent collect fee. No, this is not what we discussed. And that's often what causes the confusion. So fees are extremely important. You either have that conversation vaguely when you are doing the valuation for sales or lettings, but when they have decided to appoint you, sometimes it's the next day, sometimes it's the same day, sometimes it's 2 weeks later, sometimes it's 3 weeks later, I advise that you go back round and say, okay, thanks for appointing me. You have to show passion once I've appointed you. You are delighted they've chosen to work with you. You then say, okay, what would be great is if I pop back over just to discuss terms and fees, because terms are also timescale. How long have you got this instruction? Just you. Is it 2 days? Is it 4 weeks? Is it 6 weeks? This varies massively within Agent & Homes. I always try and get at least 6 weeks sole agency, because I know that gives me the time to really get a marketing campaign going, to get people through the door, to get some offers. Frankly, if after 6 weeks I don't have an offer for sales or lettings and they want to appoint another agent, yeah, I just die on my sword. I don't get fired, but it's a hard one to argue. However, if over those 6 weeks you're given a great service and you've gone round, once a week to have a cup of tea with them, discuss the market, discuss their life, discuss their move, the odds are they will stay with you and carry on that sole agency period. But at least they won't be tied in. I hated when I worked at Marsh & Parsons having restrictive clauses like you have to give us 6 weeks notice in writing. So, if a client wasn't happy, they said, oh look, I really want to bring on another agent, and you're like, no you can't, you're stuck with me. That's not good customer service. Remember, landlords, vendors are your partners, you are working with them. And that's a very big difference to your days in the high street where you had to justify your existence to area managers, or you had targets for viewings, target for valuations, target for price reductions. You don't have any of these. What is it you want? You want to take on an instruction for sales or lettings at the right price, at the fair price. You want your vendor, your landlord to understand that. And basically you are working together with them to achieve their goal. And once you get that message across, it's a totally different relationship you have with your clients, because you're working in partnership with them. You are a team, you have a common goal, which is their move, their let, their relocation, and that is your differential. And if you get that right, fees aren't a problem. You do not have to offer low fees, because at the end of the day, they want to work with you. And they understand that they have to pay you a fair fee. Because remember, having done your research, like we spoke about in previous videos, you know what the competition is charging. So if you've offered a 1% fee or 1.5% fee, and the high street is offering 2 or 1.75 or even 1.5, great, you're still better than them. If let's say Foxtons charge a 450 admin fee and you're charging 195 one, that is much better than them. So therefore you're not a cheapskate, you're fair. And that's what the public want now. They want fairness, honesty, transparency, and that's what Agent & Homes is about. Thank you.